Ferrari had the worst race of the season so far in Mexico, according to Charles Leclerc. The Monegasque, who was a championship contender at one point, has slammed the Maranello team for the way they have conducted the race, saying that he knew the race would be this bad ever since the qualifying session ended. But why is Ferrari constantly struggling with old foes? Is there something that they can do in order to fix it and remain P2, which is now the reality after they've been fighting Red Bull in the first half of the season? During Saturday's qualifying session, Leclerc and Sainz weren't the best versions of themselves as the Ferrari pair lined up behind both Mercedes and Red Bull drivers. This hasn't happened so far in the season, as Mercedes was really close to the pole position too, but unfortunately they weren't able to capitalize on it due to Russell's mistake in the ending stages of his flying lap. Still, it is what it is, and Ferrari's poor qualifying pace has translated into the race day, with them not being able to get past at least one of the top-performing cars. Sainz and Leclerc finished P5 and P6 respectively, and now Leclerc is losing the P2 fight in the Drivers' Championship with Perez. On top of that, Mercedes was able to cut down 15 points in the Constructors' Championship to Ferrari, something that has brought them very close to that P2 spot and the bigger prize at the end of the season. While many thought that Ferrari were championship contenders, the Italian team has shown yet again that they aren't really capable of handling successful and potential drivers like Leclerc and Sainz. Leclerc spoke after the Mexican GP, labeling it the worst GP for them in the previous period. When talking about this matter, he said, "Coming into the race, as much as I am an optimist, I knew it was going to be difficult. I didn't expect it to be that difficult, though, and to be that far away from the guys ahead. I hope Brazil won't be like this because I don't expect any race worse than this. It is probably one of the worst races of the season, together with Spa. I honestly believe that it is a one-off, but for the future, we need to understand what we can do in those conditions for us to be better. In Spa, we had quite a good understanding of why it was so bad, and I felt like we reacted quite well in Monza, even though it is not exactly the same track, but the issues were going to be the same. Here, it is another issue. Whether we can fix it for the short term, I don't know, but again, it is a one-off." There is something common between Spa and Mexico, and that is the altitude. Both of these locations are on high places, meaning that the altitude is higher. The altitude in Mexico is 2.240 meters above sea level, and it was reported that Ferrari was running down in a tuned-down condition in order to survive this altitude. Leclerc accepts that this is a major factor in why the team performed so bad, but downplays that this is the only factor that brought to their poor showing. "On my side, we had a few problems in qualifying, and I think we could have been closer. But in the race, the DSR problem was fixed, and we changed the rear wing, and then with the engine, we still had some problems, but it definitely doesn't explain the gap that we are seeing now. We need to work on it and try to make it so that when we have our bad days, the damage is not as bad as this one." The fight for second place in the Drivers' Championship is far from over, as Perez only has a 5-point advantage over Leclerc. However, Ferrari should be worried when it comes to the Constructors' Championship because with results like this, rest assured that Mercedes will snatch that spot in the final race of the season. There are 2 more races to go, in Brazil and Abu Dhabi, and from what we are currently seeing, Ferrari are going to have a troublesome remainder of the 2022 season. One huge factor in that is the disappointment they felt from going from being championship contenders to fighting for P2 in both championships. The fact that Mercedes struggled a lot in the first half of the season but was able to catch up to the Maranello team just goes to show that they are far from a perfect team as of now. On top of that, the Italian team struggled a lot with tactics and shot calling, something that left a black mark on their results. Botched pit stops, wrong tire choices are just some of the factors that made Ferrari lose a significant amount of points compared to Red Bull and Mercedes. If you add the drivers' mistakes on top of that, such as Leclerc's in France and Imola, Sainz in Australia, you'll have the perfect recap of how the season looks so far for Ferrari. So, with all of these blunders from Ferrari and a few driver mistakes from Leclerc, we are bringing you to the second part of our video, and that is, will Leclerc leave Ferrari anytime soon? We believe that few would blame him if he chose to, although he is to blame for some of the situations he found himself in. But the fact that the car is far from the optimal competitive level compared to Red Bull, and now compared to Mercedes too, could be a determinant when it comes to Leclerc's future. The reliability issues are a factor that doesn't depend on Leclerc. We've seen it starting in Barcelona when he had a comfortable lead over Verstappen more than 12 seconds. It continued in Baku, and in both of these races, Leclerc had a legitimate chance to win. The F175 seemed like the perfect car to be driven on the city circuits, which was proven by the 1-2 qualifying order in Monaco. But the Monaco GP ended with Perez winning it and Leclerc finishing P4 behind Verstappen. These races were truly devastating to Leclerc's championship hopes, and although the biggest blow was given by him to himself in France, there have been other races where Leclerc lost a lot of points due to botched tactics. Let's remember Silverstone and Ferrari leaving Leclerc out on old tires while everybody else behind him was able to change tires and push for better results. For things to be more bizarre, Sainz was told to keep Hamilton and Perez behind him, with the Spaniard running in P2. Sainz changed tires, like Hamilton and Perez, and he immediately denied this tactic, saying that Leclerc will be a sitting duck anyway when Hamilton and Perez are able to pass him. On top of that, the Spaniard was chasing his first career win after winning his first career pole position at Silverstone. Rest assured that Leclerc wasn't happy with the outcome of the Silverstone GP in a race that Verstappen was driving with damage on his floor and a reduced amount of downforce, finishing P7. Instead of cutting down from a huge margin of the lead, Leclerc was able to cut just 8 points from Verstappen. But what does Leclerc need to change about himself in order to be a championship contender? For example, he does need a better understanding of the car and the conditions on the track, and therefore he needs to be the guy that calls for his own tactics. That's something that Sainz has done regularly in the 2022 season, and we've seen Russell calling for his own tactic and pitting on himself at the Dutch GP, passing Hamilton for P2 afterwards. Leclerc needs to understand that although his team has all the information, and it's quite normal to listen to them because they are, at the end of the day, the experts in what they are doing, they are not going to win races for him. In difficult situations, in situations where it's crucial for the driver to have his own say on the tactics, Leclerc needs to step up. And bending under pressure is something that is a huge foe for Leclerc. The Monegasque has spun twice this season, once in Imola, where he dropped to P6, and once in France, where he ended the race after leading. That is something that a championship contender shouldn't have in any case, and we are not seeing a single flaw from Verstappen this season. Maybe the Barcelona GP, where he spun onto the gravel, but was able to recover nicely and lose just 2 positions. With that being said, although Leclerc's team isn't truly the perfect one, he needs to step up his game if he wants to win more races in the future and be considered a championship contender. It's hard when you don't have an optimal car, and with how Verstappen's been performing lately, Leclerc's chances are equal to 0 to win the championship anytime in the future in a fair and square battle. What do you think about Leclerc and Ferrari? Let us know in the comments below.